Alright, so this is how I make my woolly buggers, and it kind of goes against what everybody says. They're like, oh, I didn't catch anything, but I actually catch a lot of fish on these things. So I'm using a size 8 Hyabusa fly hook or whatever here. Japanese hooks, really sharp. And then I'm just using a 3/8 millimeter, which is a big bead, but I'm using a big black bead on here. Some people like, you can imitate it as a stonefly if that's what they're kind of, going after. If you need to, that's a cool thing, make an all black one. I'll show you the way I do it. I got this like thread, which is probably, I think it's around like 8 weight or something. It's just crap, but it works really good actually, so it's not crap. But I got like this whole bag of this thing off Amazon for like 10 bucks. It's one of those things I just wanted to get like free shipping, so I grabbed it and it works pretty good. So let's get going on this here. I'm not gonna wrap the back of the bead head. I don't really care about that. I just want to get some thread on the string, on the shank. I don't dress my shanks on a lot of my flies anymore. Just no point in doing it for me, that I find. So let's start with your marabou tail. You can wet it down if you want. Some people do, and just make it a little bit easier. And what I want to do is make it the same length as the hook shank here, so it doesn't look all weird. And it's just about, that's about right there. And I'll grab it up here, put that down. Actually, I'm gonna wrap this to the back. It doesn't have to be tight wraps, just get it to the back. And then I'm gonna do like 2 wraps with it. 1, 2. Watch out for that hook down there. It will snap off your stuff. And then I want to look at it quickly here and see, is that the length that I want? I would say I go a little bit longer. Let me come on, done with this. Go forward about 1 centimeter more there. Look at it again. And that looks like it's about the right length for this fly. So I'll put a couple more wraps in there. And then I'll actually just wrap back up to the front here. And then I will clamp this down. I'll just do like 2 or 3 wraps on this. 1, bring it up to the top again, 2. There, okay, now that means I got it pinched in there good. I'll just work back on it now. They don't have to be tight wraps again. Just trying to keep it even. Get to the back of this thing again here. I'm gonna cut this off as close as I can. So we're done with the marabou. Next, we are gonna put in some crystal flash here. This stuff, it just works awesome. Highly recommend it. I put it in almost as many flies as I can. I sometimes just wrap it up to make like perdigons and stuff, because this stuff just reflects anywhere in the water like crazy. I just grab it. I'm gonna cut it in half here. Bam. And then I'm gonna take my 2 ends here, which seem to be wrapped up in a circle here. I'm gonna have to cut those off actually. Can't use that one, it's kind of frustrating me. All right. And then I'm gonna put this up against the side of it here. Let me put the edge of it, the tips of it towards the back there. Wrap this like a couple times there, come up with it a little bit. And then I'll pull this side down now. And then now I wrap that up. Now that's wrapped down there. I'll come back up to the top here, clean that up a little bit. Because next we're going to add the wire, which I think I need to clip another piece of it here, because that is not long enough. I'm using a thick wire, so I got sitting around here, which I highly, like, you don't have to use it, but the problem is you got to clip this stuff because it's so thick. It doesn't helicopter off. So I would use a little bit thinner gauge than the metal I'm using. I try to stick it up into the bead head a little bit there. Make sure you don't come all the way out over here and cover that hole, because then that really, you can't, get your string in there to tie it. So I'll bring this all the way to the back. Now we got our cable, we got that in there. Now I'll grab my chenille. I'm just gonna use black chenille. What I do ahead of time is I come to the front here, and then I use my fingernails to pull off the edges of the chenille until I get down to the base string there. See that string? And then on this side, I'm gonna wrap it in See how it's up there? It doesn't matter, you can wrap it up on the top. I'm just gonna wrap that in there, right? So now that's in there. And I'm just gonna bring this up to the top again, kind of clean that up there because I got some stuff sticking out. And then I'm gonna wrap it towards you guys there, the chenille. And so we'll wrap this in there like that. Get this wrapped up in there. We'll do 3 wraps, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll do 3 in here. 1, 2, 3, all right, 4. Cut off the chenille. Done with that, right? Now, the old-fashioned way that I looked up when I was reading about the woolly bugger and stuff, I saw that they used this kind of rooster hackle actually originally. So I'm just gonna use this. Actually, works pretty good for me to use this color. If I want to do I'll put black on there, like, especially if I want it to be more for looking like a stonefly. Like if I need to copy a stonefly or something, then I'll use the black hackle, which I can't find. I don't know where to put it. But nonetheless, I'm gonna take this stuff. I usually just grab a chunk off of it. I want it to be, the hackle to be about as fat as the distance between the bottom of the hook there and the rest of the fly. So let's wrap that around there a little bit. It looks like it's about good right around there. So I'm gonna cut that off. So I'll just clip that off right there. Then watch, I'm gonna pull off some fibers until I get this plain stem again there, right? I'll put this stem in. I'll have the feathers. I want it facing backwards like this, right? Towards the back of the fly. And I'm gonna put this in there. So I'll put one in there. Just, let me see if I get like 2 wraps on this here. And come forward with it. 1. All right, so there's 2, there's 3 wraps on it. Now watch what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it and bend that back, right? When I bend that stem back, I'm gonna clamp down on that stem now. Now I've just kind of like doubled it in there. Now if you notice, if I had built up the head behind here, it would have been a mess right now trying to take care of this, right? So, okay, now I'm just gonna hackle it a couple times. I'll do it like 2 or 3 times up at the top here to give it a good amount to start with. And then I'm just gonna kind of go down 1, 2, maybe we'll do like 3. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the wire that I have in there and I'm going to cross hackle this. So I just went that direction. I'm gonna bring it this opposite direction now so that it actually clamps down. Wrap it twice here, and that way it's clamping down on the hackle and holding it in place for me, right? So then, okay, and then I'm gonna go just in like close wrap spirals towards me. I'm cross hackling it back and bring that right up to the front here. And then 1, 2, and then 3. And then I'm gonna go on the other end of it here. 1, 2, 3. And that kind of locks it in place. The only thing about using a stick wire that's bad is that I'm gonna cut it off, which is helicoptering is better, but this thick of wire, you try to helicopter and you end up tearing the fly apart. So I'm just gonna snip it right here, but know that when you cut this here, this stuff is extremely sharp and it'll break your line if you're not thinking about it being in there. So just kind of think about that when you're whip finishing and everything, that you've got that sharp chunk of metal right there. Try to bury it in there if I can a little bit. And then obviously I'm gonna cut off the rest of that hackle right there. Get rid of that. Oops, that was a bad cut. All right. So then we got all the hackle there. Now I'm just going to, usually I grab this and pull it all back a little bit so it's easier to put the, it's easier when I have to do the whip finish. I don't want to be like whip finishing for, like pulling hackle out of the whip finish. So just keep doing this till I can get it up and away. Really get my finger jabbed every time with this end of this barb. I'm gonna try to bury the barb for a second just so I can do this part. Just getting the barb in my finger every time I pull it back there. Alright, we're getting most of them back here. There we go. 1, 2. Now again, remember I left that space up here so I could do stuff like this. So I got the space to do this. That's why I don't build up the head behind the bead, because I'm gonna, as you can see, I'm gonna build it up anyways. I would use UV resin to finish this off. I'm gonna do a whip finish on it. But I'm trying not to grab any of those fibers too. Whoa, I hate when that happens. That's because I pulled it out. I forgot to put it back in before. Let's just tie that down because I don't know what just happened there. Obviously it grabbed some stuff in the hackle. I want to get that back again. Don't want that on the front. All right, and then let's try to get a good whip finish in there without grabbing all the material. Man, I'm having one of those days. You'd think by now I would have tightened the vise down, but whatever. All right, just stop before I turn this into a mess. And then we'll cut that off, and then I'm just gonna add, check out my flash video. I'm just gonna add now some super glue. I usually add UV resin, but I'm just trying to make this quicker. So I don't want that, I want to put a good amount in there. Just watch out that it doesn't cover the eye of the hook, but there you go. That's how I make my woolly buggers. And they're pretty deadly like this. So I make them brown. I'll show you guys how to make thin mints and stuff eventually. That's a really good one too. But that's it. It's just a deadly little fly, and it sinks quick, and it's really good if you're moving fast, like stripping kind of quick. It works good. So best of luck.